Down here at the Yellow Shop on New Year's Day, wanted to share with you how we got this hydrant and some electrical put into this building. Stick with us. As you may be aware and remember from other videos, we've had a lot of work done right here to the west with this reservoir in the creek area. And along the way, we thought it would be prudent to go ahead and take advantage of some of the ground torn up to run electrical all the way down to the shop right here where my thumb is showing, and also this hydrant right here. I think it's just a great example of taking an opportunity from another situation and moving on to this situation here. This will electrify this building and make sure I have water to wash off my equipment. It's all good. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing out how we started the dig and then work our way all the way down to here to put the electrical in and on the other end. We have the wire coming in from the lighthouse, and then we have the wire going out to the Yellow Shop, and then a future stub out for possible someday a gate for our driveway. And then of course we have the electrical setup, pre-set up for the wire to go in and run the pump out of the well. So we're all staged. What I'm going to do is wrap up this wire, put the box on top of it, have Ron come over. Down here at the shop today, Gonna put in some electrify this yellow shop, and also put in some irrigation and a hydrant down here. So we will have water and electric all the way out to this yellow shop, which is, you know, quite a ways. Call it 700 to 800 feet away from its source. So we've ran several lines, obviously, to get down here. There's going to be several lines going back out. So I'll also put in an aeration line, weighted line, to go up to the reservoir. Also going to put in an electrical out to, or should I say just stub it out for now, to a possible spring situation. We don't know yet. We haven't emptied all the water out of the reservoir to do a repair. Once we do that and let it dry for about a week, we'll see if that's still running. If that's still running, we've got a spring, which is amazing if we could get that. So I will be working in this area probably for several hours, just putting it all together. I have an old hydrant that came back from the back of the house when I was doing that retaining wall. So now I'm just going to take that hydrant and retrofit it out here. Really kind of a good deal. So here we go. It's amazing when you do all these type of different pieces of work, you know, whether electrical, water, you know, working with aeration, working with pumps, you know, all this is, you know, like I said before many times, not an expert at any of this stuff. And in some ways, doing so many different things, you never really become jack of all trades, kind of my idea. So have a lot to overcome every time, thinking through, okay, what do I need for this, need for that? Nothing's basically secondhand nature, because, you know, frankly, haven't dealt with it before. You know, just little things like even this pipe dope, and understanding how much do I need, and you know, because once it's down in the ground 4 feet, you're not going to want to dig it up. You know, so it's just one of those things. You just got to keep learning and building, right? That's part of why I'm here and doing this work. Normally I like to pre-set up myself so that I don't have to do this in the field. It's a nice morning this morning, so it's not really that big of a deal. But, you know, it's terrible to do it in the middle of the sun out here in the field. So, you know, I'm not 100% online today with this, because I just simply have had a lot of running around to do. Again, back to the, you know, getting so many things done at once. And you have to do it because, you know, if you don't, then you have a situation where you've got somebody here that's, you know, helping me in the project, Ron, and, you know, you got to respect his time and let him kind of, you know, get out of here, as, you know, complete the job he needs to complete. So I really didn't give myself enough stub out here, but so I'm hoping this won't be that bad, but we'll see. If you don't heat this up, I tell you, it doesn't go in. You can live a lifetime trying to punch that in. Ooh, that worked out. It's good. Clamp it up. Ooh, this thing's still on fire. When it's live water, I always try to put double locks. It's just, you too much pressure. When it's just running down a line and it's under a valve control, I don't do that. These little suckers are really expensive when you get down to it. It's quite a bit of money for each one of them. Gotta say, it's somewhere over $1. So, everything counts in large amounts. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so that's good. Projects like this have so many different parts. It's just on and on parts. And when you think of it that way, you realize, oh my God, how am I going to get all these parts, make sure I have every one of them in proper location, and so, but there's 1,000 little parts that go along with these projects. And it's quite a bit. These 250 psi polys are really thick and hard to get around. Okay, hopefully that got us. All right. Not going to worry about this being level at the moment. When Ron gets here, we'll make sure it's nice and stiffened up and level. Yeah, so it looks good. So one step. Now to put in the electrical. Okay, so this is going to be for the air. This is electrical out to, or sorry, inbound. And then this is the electrical outbound to the pump for the spring, possible spring. Don't know spring. You want to grab that a little bit? I got it, I think. Maybe I got it. There we go. Got it. Okay. Woo! Well, this turned out really, really nice. This is for the aerator. The electric coming in, the electric going over to the spring bucket. So this all worked out really nice. I think it's exactly what I was looking for. I just got it covered up. I also have the water hydrant behind me. Would have liked to be closer, but that stem out from the old fixture rusted together, wasn't going to work. So then I got all this running across underneath the creek by a couple feet, and then that's over there to the spring, possible spring situation, and then up to the top, and aerator pipe up to, or hose should I say, up to the reservoir and the water from the spring. So with that I think I'm going to go ahead and move on to another phase. Okay, so we only need about 15 amps down here, just a normal simple circuit. This shop will not be a production shop of any form for woodworking or anything like that. All it's going to be is, necessary for some lights, maybe a garage door opener, and a run for some plugs, and that's it. Very simple. So we only have 20 amps coming down to there. I'm going to only use 15 of them for this area because the line is somewhat split with another activity, as you saw before. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and put in this 70 amp box. A little overkill, but I just figured just grab the 70 amp box. Got 2 circuits just in case I want to use them somewhere along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the wall, get it all wired in. You can see I've got my wires ran down. Originally, we had only intended for the 8 gauge wire here to be used for the pump. Things have changed. The pump is lower now. We don't need as much. And basically I had to run another set of lines down for the pump. So I ran that on a 12, but I had this wire in the ground already. So I figured I would go ahead and run it all the way down here. It's a good thing I used 8 gauge though, nonetheless, because as you know, further away from the source, the more it decreases the value of your voltage down the road. So again, we're 800 feet away. So I'm going to go ahead and start setting this thing up for some wiring and share it out with you. As I just showed you, we went ahead and ran through the wires all the way down, went through a box and a conversion to split out to a gate and run a local heater for the bottom of the reservoir. So the wire splits out into a box. I didn't show that part, but it splits into a box that I had pre-made that I did just show you. And then I'm going to go ahead, ran all the way down the side of the reservoir and over to this area, and as I demonstrated a minute ago. So now I'm inside the shop, and I'm going to go ahead and wire this all the way in. I've ran quite a bit of extra through here, so it's kind of funny, but nonetheless, I had to do it. So it's, here we go. So when I went down to Home Depot, they didn't have any white. So I've ran 2 blacks, and I've marked them so that I don't have that issue. But so I'm going to go ahead and use one of the blacks as a neutral and use the 2 blacks. Again, I ran 4 lines down here just because it really was, I originally had the thought that I would run this off of 40 amps. And because of demands and different things that switched, I went ahead and ran the 20 amp all the way down here. It will be something that if in the future state, if I want to upgrade the whole system, I switch out some breakers and make that happen. But for right now, this is all I need. So at least this is here and available if in some future state I want to do that. So this is another moment where I've learned something from the internet, watching other people be electricians. I am not an electrician, and please don't follow anything I'm telling you to do. So what I'm just, doing here is obviously it's pretty simple stuff, you would think. So that's why I've done a little, YouTube to experience kind of moment, right? And I think the more you do things like that, the more confidence you get. That's one of the difficulties of new stuff, is really just confidence. Once you have it, you pretty much know what you're doing. None of this stuff is very difficult. If you're dealing with, putting in a new service, I think you should go with a professional without a doubt. If you're putting any structural support, load-bearing walls or load-bearing, long stretches, 20 feet wide or what have you, then you probably need to go get yourself an engineer to make sure that you're doing it right. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to go and outsource it. I do that. For example, I'm never going to be able to run a D6. That's why I hire Ron. I'm probably not going to be that good at a mini excavator. That's why I hire Ron. But for the most part, I try to learn something and deploy it. It's both sides, right? It's rewarding to learn, and at the other end of the spectrum, you're saving a couple bucks, which is well deserved at this point. Put a lot of money to work, so it's important to get it to stretch as far as you can. And if it takes an hour or 2 or even 10 to sit on the internet and learn a couple things, I recommend it.
So I'm not looking again to do anything magical out here, run any significant power. I just want some basic lights, which are going to be LEDs. Maybe someday put a camera off of it, just in case if there's some sort of value in here that I'm worried about. I'm not overly worried about that though, so I probably won't. You know, camera all this do would be pinging all night because cars would be flying by. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and keep going here. So one of the things that's really kind of cool working with new concepts, new processes, is also you get to work with new tools. Of course, there's a learning aspect to that, right? In which I'm not skilled at any of this stuff, so I got to kind of grow that extra limb, if you will, of knowledge to know what I'm doing and how I'm dealing with it. There's value in people being called journeymen, definitely. And when you are outsourcing to somebody that is a professional, the theory is that they're a journeyman and you know that you're getting exactly what you should be getting out of something. So it could be dangerous if you're doing it on your own. Again, in this case, I don't see it that way too much, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going down this road of learning. But for the most part, it's a it's a cool deal to kind of learn new things and work with tools that you've never had any reason to deal with before. Okay, we're all plumbed up here. I'm going to go ahead and run the wire up, start kind of wiring it in, and set myself up for success. It will not be operational this year. I needed to dead end it, and because I got to turn on the heater for the reservoir. So sounds odd, but I got a heater that goes around the pipe so that there's no ice that rips off the cap. So that was an afterthought, but it was a good one. Well, as I was saying earlier, with the internet helps out so dramatically. It's funny how these little boxes don't come with the little ground bus bars. So I had to, I didn't know that. And I would have bought it, and I would have been running back down to Lowe's or Home Depot to figure it out, right? But so now, of course, I've used the internet to educate me on this question. So anyway, time to put in the ground and get that going. It's funny how anxious I get when I go to cut the wire. It's as if you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be in this situation where I don't have enough run. So I always kind of try to think of it as a little bit extra, or maybe a good half inch, an inch extra, and then you can tuck it in underneath.
Okay, we're all wired up for success here. I think originally I put the neutral in the wrong place, but that's fine. I got it fixed now. So it's coming up in the top. Sorry, coming up from the bottom. So here's our neutral going in. Here's our power 1, power 2. The ground is off to the side here. And I think we're golden. I'm going to go ahead and close this bad boy out and call this part of it done.
You know, I've still got to do the feed in from the other sub panel inside the lighthouse. I'm going to go ahead and do that here in the next clip. But, you know, I'm working backwards. So I've got the hooked up in the center there, but I also kind of got this guy on this end, and I'll go back and work on that. I have to turn off the power to that box because that one is actually live. So with that, let's go on to the next phase. So we're back up here at the lighthouse, and you might remember from prior videos that this was our old pump house cement structure. Really quite the art form, but it ended up being great to have on the property. So what I've used this as is an epicenter for all things out here about 150 to 200 feet away from the house. So the original wiring that came to run this pump was aluminum wiring 6 gauge. So I've ran that out to this sub panel. This sub panel runs not only the electrical for the lighthouse, the electrical that's going to be necessary for all the irrigation terminals. And then also this is the location of the 20 amps that's going to go ahead and run that 750 to 800 feet run all the way down to our yellow shop. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is obviously connect some of the wiring. It's a mess down here. There's water lines coming in. There's electrical lines coming in from everywhere because I haven't completed the work for all the irrigation systems yet. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start building the conduit, get this box set up for success. The power is turned off. I have tested it. And, you know, go ahead and get that run taken care of. As you saw just previously, I've got the end down by the yellow shop completed. So now it's just a matter of getting this one step closer to the source of electricity, which is in the basement of our house. So with that, let's go. Like I said earlier, I'm not an electrician by trade, just a YouTuber that ultimately feeds off of YouTube to do things on my own. And didn't realize that these sub panels here have only 3 entrances that are larger than 3/4. One from the bottom, as you can see, we're using. The other side coming in here, obviously, I'm using as well. And then this side over here. Unfortunately, I've also got my ground built out in front of it. Now I can move it and haggle all of that. But what I'm going to just go ahead and do is convert down to 3/4 right here before the box and run the line down, because the whole line is actually 1 inch, which is advisable for conduit to be 1 inch when you run an 8 gauge through it. Again, so I've researched. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and do that conversion right here at the top. I guess the risk would be is if this little section here got overheated and the wires are just too close together. I've tested it. There's a lot of air still. And of course, there's going to be air right here all around it. So it's not like it's trapped in, you know, 700 feet of 3/4. So I think we'll be fine. So like I said earlier, it's kind of cool to build your own stuff. Frankly, it's what kind of drives me is project work. Particularly if that project work is not a death march and, you know, like mandated to get it done within a certain window, kind of like our reservoir. But this here's, you know, it's kind of chilly out, mid-November, and hey, no big deal. It's just a project to get done, and it's easy to get done. So I'm going ahead and manufacturing this little connector here that I'm building out. Okay. Okay, so, you know, now it's just a matter of just doing some measurements, cutting the conduit and running that up. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that thinking out. Here we go. Okay, so down here I have the water line coming in here, obviously overly extended, you know, to allow for flexibility of where to place it when it comes to putting in the pressure tank. I've got the wires coming in here to run the pump down by the reservoir to draw the water up here from what I call the well. And then we have this wiring here that's going to ultimately run the yellow shop and a potential gate in the future. So that's all down there at the Y that I built out in last year's video. So with that, I think I'm going to be able to, I feel like this thing's going to run a pretty good shot just if I glue it in, give it just a little twist. Hopefully I don't have to go through the anguish of actually trying to do a connector. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and run it through and see what we get. Just a little fat. Probably best 43. Okay, finally got our 4 lines all the way up to the sub panel here. And conduit all in, looking good, giving me room to access the bin for the main wires coming into the sub panel. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and start plugging in as you would do. I'm going to go ahead and start with the ground. We've got our 2 powers and our neutral. So obviously I'm going to route my neutral all the way back up in here to the neutral bar. And the ground will base into this bar over here. Give myself a little bit of flex just so that, you know, I don't have, you know, too many problems down the road. Sub panels, you know, it's interesting. For the most part, sub panels do have to be thinking about what could possibly happen in the future. However, this panel is maxed out. I could make more of it, but then that would mean I would have to run bigger lines. Not going to do it. Maybe for the next crew to come in and do that work. Now this was a bit of an afterthought. I originally was not going to use 8 gauge for this purpose. So I had seen some discussion about whether or not 8 gauge fits into the terminals of a 20 amp breaker. So I'm kind of playing hopeful right now because, again, the internet says it's not necessarily what the internet does. Now I did get conflicting feedback on the internet, so I'm just kind of thinking maybe I'll be able to get past it here. It is looking like it's opening up enough, but it's going to be close. It's going to be very close, and that's not necessarily ideal, but it is what it is, and I'm going to try my best to get to it.
just right there. Definitely tight to put in those 8s into this box. You couldn't have put a 6, there's no way. So this 8 gauge is right at the limits of it all. Would have preferred not to have that, but again, I can't run 40 amp, which was originally what this wire was for. You know, quick backstory on that. I had gone to the pump, suppliers, said, what do I need for a gauge wire? When I gave him the specs of what I was looking for, he upped the pump originally. Well, because of our troubles with the reservoir, I had some time to rework the concepts, thinking, and what have you. So I went back with him and got a lower pump needed to run the irrigation system. So this wire was oversized at that point, and all we need is the 12 that's behind me. So I had this 8 gauge, and frankly, it gave me an opportunity to go ahead and electrify the yellow shop. Okay, so I've got myself all hooked up. I did tests on the power coming through. It's good, it's live. I'm going to go ahead now and just hook up my neutral, feed it up and around, and drop it back up there on the top. Okay, all the new wires are in, all looking good. So I am going to go ahead and take a ride onto the other end at the yellow shop and make sure that everything came through accordingly before I close it all up. And got to pop out my extra guys here. So with that, let's go down on the other end real quickly. I'll be right back. Okay, I've tested all the way to the other end. Looks sharp. Everything's powered through. Learned something a moment ago. I actually just researched it on the fly off my cell phone. You're not going to see hot if everything's powered correctly through the neutral wire. If you see hot on a neutral wire, then it's not correct. Something's wrong. So I tested these wires. They were solid hot, and of course my neutral was not. So everything turned out good. I'm wired up correctly. I'm going to go ahead, don't need it for now. I'm going to kill that out. My 15's on for my lighthouse, and the other 20 amp that's set up for the pump control, the sub drive, is ready to go for a future install into the wiring there. So this is a wrap on this box and a wrap on this video. So learned a little bit about sub panels, how to extend it out. Now to go ahead to the next phase, and that is to start electrifying the yellow shop. We won't do that until next spring. With that, hey, have a good one. Thank you for watching.